Hi, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. I thought that I knew, we've had dog psychics, we've had acupuncture talks. Now there's a new technique that apparently is very, very, very prominent in Europe, the Tellington Touch. And I have with me tonight Marsha Wallace and her dog Gracie. And Marsha, this is your show. What is the Tellington Touch?
Well, the Tellington Touch method is like many other modalities you just mentioned. We're looking to get balance, restore balance to an animal. When an animal's in balance, they feel more confident, more relaxed, and they can learn better. And it's very useful for dogs that are anxious, have behavior problems like barking or chewing or pulling.
High-strung animals.
High-strung animals, timid animals, and also champion show dogs or agility dogs. It's all about restoring balance and confidence.
So, I mean, you brought Gracie because you're going to show us a bit about what you actually do on the animal. So you want to do that?
Right.
She's still sitting there quietly on your lap?
Yeah, Gracie, as quiet as she is now, gets very upset when there are storms, and this method has enabled us to go without medication. What we do in T-Touch is non-habitual motions that stimulate new neural pathways in the animal.
Non-habitual meaning it moves around?
Well, we use the circle as the foundation of the work. We use a variety of strokes and lifts and hand positions. And the basic circle is we're not moving muscle, we're just moving the skin, and just moving the skin in a clockwise fashion. And we actually make a circle and a quarter. So if you imagine a clock face, you start at 6 o'clock, move the skin ahead of you, past 6 o'clock and stop at 9. And if you do it at home, you'll see that if you stop at 6, it just doesn't feel as complete, and you just have to feel it to see the difference. You're just using about the same pressure as if you put your fingertips on your cheekbone and move the skin without feeling the bone underneath, and that would be about the right pressure. So we're just stimulating nerve endings.
So do you do it everywhere on the animal?
You can do it everywhere on the animal. Gracie likes little touches on the top of her head. And there are over 20 hand positions, which can be varied by tempo, by the amount of pressure. And we work on the dog depending on where we feel the issue may be. A dog that chews or barks a lot may need mouth work. And we would be doing circles around their mouth because we feel that's where they're holding their tension. Most dogs that are anxious or tense are getting ready to flee. We know about fight or flight. And when an animal is constantly ready to flee, they're putting a lot of pressure into their back end, into their rear end, and they really don't know what it's like to feel 4 feet on the floor. You know, if you see the dogs in Westminster when they come up to the judge and they just stand perfectly, that's a dog that's in natural balance. So we may, on those dogs, start to work on the front of them and then try to integrate their body so that their back and front end feel equal.
So how long, so if I had a dog that barked a lot and I brought the dog in for this Tellington T treatment, how long is the session?
The sessions can be 15 minutes to an hour. It depends on the dog's tolerance.
Really?
We watch the dog to see signs of relaxation, like just sitting or yawning, or they like. My one dog who was very timid would just gradually sit and then lay down. But if the dog is very fidgety, you go to a different area, change the touch. Sometimes it's a matter of time to sense what really helps. Now, yesterday I was at the shelter, for example.
I know, that's what you said.
Yes, and I had the pleasure of working with two dogs. One was a Maltese cross with a curled tail over her back. And I was working on her for a while, and I thought, this dog doesn't have a chance to feel what that tail feels like to be uncurled. And indeed, as I gently straightened it out, you could feel her relax. When I first took her out of the kennel, she was shaking. She was like, why am I here? And she really did feel happy. And as I walked her around a little bit, we'd also do some groundwork. She just seemed more happy and more relaxed. And she can't stretch her tail. So that's the kind of thing. We look for areas in the body where there's a lot of tension.
Well, how did, excuse me for interrupting you, but before we, I want to find a little bit, how did, I see this Linda
Tellington
Jones is the guru, the mother of this, or whatever.
She the inventor.
How long has this been in practice, and how did she discover that this technique had such effect?
Well, Linda is a horsewoman. She was born into a family of famous horse trainers.
Horses.
And she was one of these people who's born in the saddle. She had a riding school.
You want to put her down?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gracie.
Sniff around.
Good puppy.
And she also studied Feldenkrais, which is a method of healing the body with small movements to affect the body overall. And one day in 1983, she was working with an animal, and she just intuitively made these circles and noticed that the animal was relaxing. And it was sort of, that's when she had the aha moment that just like in Feldenkrais, where we can relax the body with small, non-habitual movements, maybe we can use that approach to animals. So it started with horses and later went on to dogs. We have companion animals, horses, and people now as well, too.
Yeah, and you said that in Europe this is really very prominent.
Linda has travels all over the world, and in Europe she's, quite well known. It's the technique is used in some of the veterinary schools. And
Marsha brought along a book for those of you out there who are interested. This is kind of the primer, right? I mean, there's a bunch of more books here on the table, but for those people who are interested in this
is a very good place to get started. You could also go to the website tellingtontouch.com and learn about seminars and workshops that might be available. I'm in training right now, but I started with going to a workshop. And that got me interested.
Started. Yeah, I know. Amy Devine, the director, apparently you're working with Tina. Does she have a particular problem?
Tina is a lovely little dog, but she likes to spin when she gets anxious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know Tina. She's cute.
She's adorable. And so we were working on a technique. It's a certain type of harnessing where the dog is sort of like a suitcase, and helps them, their front and back end. We hold them from one side, one from the other, and try to walk her through parallel lines. It's a little more complicated, but that we're trying to get her to feel what it is to walk straight when she's anxious. And when I'm in the house, just by being in the house, she's a little put off. And what we do with T-Touch is if an animal is up here and that they're like anxious off the charts, they're say like a 10 out of 10, if we can bring them down to even an 8, even if they go home a 9, they can get to 8 a little faster, and then with continued work they may come down to a 7. And indeed, I've seen in my own dogs how they just relax more easily, and it takes less time to get them to relax.
So is this something that, okay, you've got the 10 and you're getting it down to the 9, does the owner then know how to do this themselves, or do they, I mean, do you help the owner?
Yes. The owner,
out
of course,
that particular dog and what it's responsive to.
Exactly. The owner is with us during the session, and I would say she seems to be liking this very much, or she seems to be shying away. Doesn't like me to work on her rear end. You might want to check that out with the vet. But we start with some of the basics, and again, we watch the dog and see that the dog might want a heavier hand, a faster hand, a slower hand, and they learn how to do it. It's very easy.
So after 2 or 3 sessions with a professional like you, then you can hand it off to the pet owner itself.
It depends on the level of the problem, and it's up to the dog owner.
So sometimes it could take longer than that.
Sure.
Do you typically do this like twice a week when you're starting out with an animal, or
you can do it once or twice a day for 10 minutes or 15 minutes?
But I mean, if I had to have you come in and help me,
I would start with once a week, because you'd be able to continue on your own.
Okay.
And then once a week, check in how you're doing. Maybe come up with some new techniques. Like I said, it's not just hands-on work that we do, but it's also some groundwork and equipment that we utilize as well.
So how did you learn about this, Marsha?
I've always been interested in canine behavior, and I had an older dog who's passed on, and he had so many medical problems, and traditional medicine and even acupressure and things just weren't able to alleviate his symptoms. So I thought, what else could I look for? There was a workshop being held.
Oh, so you read about it somewhere?
I went to the workshop and was so impressed with what I saw and later met Linda Tellington Jones, did a workshop with her, and that just blew my...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you met the gal yourself.
I've met Linda a number of times, and if you ever get a chance to meet her, go to a workshop, she's an amazing person.
So I guess she's still working with all kind of animals, and then you said it's even used on humans.
Yes, Linda has a book now called Tellington Touch for You. It was developed with a nurse, and I hope to learn that. We look at a little bit of that in our training, but that's another technique, and I've used it on my mother.
Really?
She's in a nursing home, and I've used it on her, and it's a wonderful. I'm a physician. I'm a retired physician.
Oh, I was going to say, so is this your day job? Or
I'm retired.
This is sort of giving back.
Right. I'm retired, and this is, even though I'm a very left-brain person, traditionally trained, I find things like this that are so non-threatening and positive. It's a wonderful way to bond with your animal. And people who do it, when we do it to our animals, we feel as relaxed as they do.
Well, yeah, because you're getting back from the animal
exactly,
as much as
feedback.
You're giving. So there's that loop there.
Exactly, and you can kind of feel when your dog is responding properly. It's like a dance, and you feel like you're in sync.
Well, you're a caregiver by nature, obviously. I mean, you're a physician. You chose a caregiving field, and so this is a neat way to continue without having the grind of seeing poor sick patients
and dealing
all day long.
Dealing with Medicare and bills and things like that. No, it is, and I'm now able to indulge myself with being around dogs all the time.
Now, when you brought along these props, in case Gracie didn't, so do you use these just for demos when you're talking to people about this field of work and
yes,
getting them interested? We
use them for demos. We can show ear work. We have body wraps that we use. Our little Tina here, I would use to demonstrate something like hair slides that we do with dogs that have a coat. You can just move the hair in a circular fashion.
Really?
And I used that on the other dog I was in the shelter with yesterday, an Australian cattle dog.
Oh,
it was very timid, but I found, again, you try different things, and I found that the hair slides, he yawned and sat down, and he sat near me, and I knew that was a good technique for him.
Well, this is a good technique for all of us to learn about, and thank you, Marsha, so much.
Pleasure.
Marsha Wallace. Check out that website, get involved, and come back and see us next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.